Hi, my name is Tara. I'm 27 years old. For the last 4 years, I've been in a relationship that looked perfect from the outside, but quietly destroyed me from the inside. His name was Liam. I loved him deeply, or at least the version of him I thought he could become. When we met, he was confident, fun, and charming. Everyone loved him. He had this cheeky grin and swagger that made heads turn. I was drawn to him instantly. He made me laugh, took me to fancy places, and I felt lucky to be with someone everyone admired. But the truth? Liam was selfish. Not just casually selfish, but the kind of man who made me feel guilty for having my own needs. In the bedroom, it was always about him, what he wanted, how he felt. I was just there, a prop. I can't tell you how many times I lay there afterward, feeling more alone than when I was single. And outside the bedroom, same story. If I was sick, he'd still go out drinking with his mates. If I cried, he'd call me too emotional. If I wanted to talk about our relationship, he'd roll his eyes and say, "Can't we just chill for once?" I tried everything. Cooking his favorite meals, dressing up for him, planning weekend getaways, giving him space when he asked, even pretending to laugh at his dumb jokes just to keep the mood light. But nothing changed. He'd come home late without a word. Sometimes not at all. I'd ask, "Where were you last night?" He'd shrug. "Out. Don't start, Tara." Then he'd walk into the shower, leaving me standing there, with tears stuck behind my eyes and a knot in my stomach that never fully left. I stopped telling my friends, because honestly, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to admit that the man I loved didn't really care if I was hurting. But the worst part? I stayed. Because deep down, I was scared. Scared of starting over. Scared of being alone at 27 when everyone around me was getting engaged or having babies. Scared that maybe this was the best I was ever going to get. One rainy afternoon, everything changed for me. I was at this quiet cafe, headphones in, pretending to read, but really just trying not to cry. Liam had canceled on me. Again, for the 3rd time that week. No message, no apology, just gone. I stared at my cold coffee, feeling invisible in a relationship that was supposed to mean something. And then he sat down next to me. He looked different, older, maybe late 50s, dressed neatly in a gray coat and scarf. He had this calm presence, like someone who had weathered storms and learned to stay steady. He glanced over, smiled softly, and said, "That's a brave face you're wearing, but your eyes look tired." I was caught off guard. No one had said anything like that to me in years. It felt real, not flirtatious or intrusive. I managed a polite smile and said, "It's just been a long week." He nodded and replied, "Those are the ones that teach us who we are." And for some reason, I couldn't look away. Michael quietly handed me a tissue and said, "You don't need to shrink to keep someone in your life, Tara." That one sentence cracked something wide open in me. Things with Liam got worse. He started blaming me for everything, calling me clingy, too sensitive, crazy. He'd get mad if I asked him where he was, locking his phone, whispering on calls. Sometimes he came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. One night, I snapped. I said, "I don't even know who you are anymore." He laughed in my face and said, "Then maybe you never did." He walked out. Again. That night, I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling, numb. By morning, I knew it was over. I packed a few bags and left. I stayed at a friend's place for a while, didn't tell anyone where I was, not even Michael. For 2 weeks, I barely left the house. I felt hollow, like a chapter had ended, and I didn't know how to start the next one. Then one day, Michael found me at the cafe. He asked the barista where I'd been, and she told him I hadn't shown up in weeks. He left a note with his number saying, "If you're okay, don't reply. If you're not, just text me a full stop." I stared at that note for 10 minutes, then texted him. That evening, he knocked on my door. He didn't bring flowers. He brought soup, a blanket, and a playlist of quiet jazz. He had this gentle presence that didn't ask anything of me. We talked for hours about everything, and then, somewhere between stories and silence, he reached for my hand. I looked at him and said, "I don't know what this is. I just know it feels safe." He nodded and replied, "We don't have to label anything, Tara. Let's just feel it, one honest moment at a time." And slowly, those moments became more. Dinner at his place, laughter filling the air over silly movies, cuddled up on the couch, reading together in bed, him brushing my hair back as I drifted off on his chest. It wasn't fiery or loud, it was peaceful, healing, loving in ways I had never known before. He never rushed me, and when we finally made love, it was slow, emotional, deep. He looked into my eyes like I was precious, not just a body. He kissed my scars and whispered, "You don't need to be perfect to be loved, just real." A year later, Michael and I are still together. Yes, people stare and whisper. Some friends don't understand. Even my mom said, "He's old enough to be your father." And maybe he is, but it feels right. But he treats me better than any man ever has. He makes me feel adored, helps me grow, and holds space for my silence. He celebrates my voice, and sometimes I wake up next to him and just smile, because I know I finally chose peace, not passion that burns and leaves ashes, but love that heals and holds. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. Age doesn't define love. Maturity does. Kindness does. Respect does. Safety does. If you've ever felt alone, unheard, or unloved in a relationship, please know you're not weak for wanting more. You're not too emotional. You're human. You deserve a love that calms your storm, not one that stirs it up. Sometimes that love arrives in the most unexpected ways. It might not fit the mold your friends or family envision. It may not check all the boxes on paper. But if it brings you peace, respect, and emotional safety, that's real love. Have you ever been in a relationship that transformed you, for better or worse? Or felt a love that no one else seemed to understand? Share your story in the comments below. Your words could empower someone to leave a situation that's hurting them. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories each week. Because here, your story truly matters. And healing begins with being heard.